I asked my Instagram followers what questions they had about psychedelics, and also like if they wanted to share any of their experiences. I've been, for like a little background, I consider myself like a psychonaut at this point. Ugh, it sounds so cringy. But I do psychedelics a lot, mostly in a therapeutic setting, though I've definitely done my share recreationally, just less so these days. But yeah, and so that's kind of my background. I've been doing like medicine work for 10 years. I think I started doing psychedelics when I was like 12, which is like definitely too early, but with definite breaks in between. But yeah, so I have like a long and like diverse relationship with them. Yeah. So I'm gonna start reading questions. Have you ever done ayahuasca? I have done ayahuasca a total of 4 times. So yes, I have. That one's an intense one for sure. And then someone commented that they help their depression immensely. For some people, that is a really great tool. Next question is, saw you did ayahuasca a while back. What was the experience like for you? My experience with ayahuasca specifically, and this question kind of comes up again and again, so I'll only answer it once. Like one of like a really, really deep and kind of difficult and beautiful experience. The first time I think had even more of an impact on me than the second, but I did like, there was some good stuff in there too, honestly. But I guess I found the second one a little bit more challenging, even though it was like way less intense in a way. It's really interesting. I think, when you trip with ayahuasca, there's a really different way of experiencing it than like mushrooms, where you can kind of like talk it and lead it. Kind of, for me, I've never, and maybe it's the amount I've taken too, I've always taken a smaller-ish cup. It hits me pretty strong, but there's a way to kind of guide yourself, or like this like inner wisdom that you can kind of connect to, and can kind of you can kind of let yourself move through the trip in a way that I don't experience with other psychedelics. It's like a beautiful experience. I don't think it's for everyone, and yeah, I think it's a great tool for doing like any kind of healing or spiritual work in that capacity. Yeah. 7 grams of mushrooms convinced myself I had died and was reliving everything, or in hell or purgatory. That's rough. I've definitely had trips like that. And they happen to me less and less these days. And even a difficult trip is like way more bearable, and I'm able to navigate it. But when I was like, I don't know, I was like 13 or 14, I ate like a bunch of mushrooms and thought the world was ending, and that was a lot. So I get it. Oh, and the ayahuasca thing, I'm also a super puker, so I spend so much of my journey just vomiting like crazy. My first mushroom, someone said, my first mushroom trip experience was lovely time. Thought about colors for over 30 minutes. That's really cute. I grow psychedelics. I believe they can help with mental illness and more. I agree. I don't think... So while I think psychedelics are a great tool and can be really great for healing, I don't think it's necessarily for everybody. I don't think it's like this magic cure, or doesn't mean you have to do a lot of work. I mean, I guess some people like wake up and they're like completely different. That has not been my journey. It's been definitely a tool and like something to like push me, but it's not like this switch. Other people definitely describe different experiences. That's not mine has been like layered amounts of work. What is the most psychedelic things you saw on your partner's body when you on acid? Yeah, people brought up like and psychedelics a lot, which is interesting. I'm pretty particular. I can either really enjoy. So first of all, the most psychedelic thing I've ever seen is that like my ex-boyfriend turned into the devil while we were having sex. This is when I was like a teenager. But like, yeah, for me on psychedelics can be either something really magical and deep and special, or I'm actually like not into it and feel too distracted in other things to engage sexually, or I feel almost like childlike. Be quiet! Oh yeah, or sometimes I'm like too childlike and feel too innocent, and it's like just not where I want to go. So people had like a lot of talk about that in these comments, and you'll see them. But like for me, it's like really specific and really particular, and I can be a very sexual or completely unsexual person on psychedelics, and sometimes I don't like the idea of mixing it at all. And sometimes it's great. Have you experienced the spherical ball of all? I don't know what the that means, so I don't know. I took LSD for the first time this weekend. I'd always been so scared. Try it, so fun. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I do let acid weigh less. It's not one I do a whole lot of at this point, but I've definitely done a good amount. Have you ever done DMT or considered using it to see the universe? I have done DMT twice only, and it was really interesting. I was at my ex's house. We smoked DMT, and it was like very, very kind of big, and it was gendered. She was a woman. Like, it was a woman. The plant was female for me, and she was just kind of like read me to filth. And then she was like, next time you come to me, like, you can't be partying and whatever, like, you come to me like a clean vessel. and definitely was just also like, I guess I'm a DMT vegan, where like it feels really wrong to eat animals when I'm doing DMT. And having them like in my body, so that was really interesting. And then there was this big trip that all my friends went on that I was supposed to go on, and she told me not to and to stay home, and I did, and all my friends are no longer friends. And I stayed home and made a lot of money. So that was my experience with DMT. And then the second time I didn't like go hard enough. Also, everything turned into like a video game of like little heads moving and biting things. It looked like Pac-Man. So that was my experience with DMT the first time. And then the second was I was just like a little like high. It was a pen. It was at a rave. It was not like, it wasn't super potent. So it just kind of made me a little dreamy, whatever, but it didn't like do the thing that it did, like where you just like get smacked in the face with like intense hallucinations right away, like I did the first time. I love shrooms, but only take them with my best friend. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you should only do psychedelics with really like people that you trust, unless you're like really then like comfortable and you can navigate. Stick to what you know. But I've done a lot, and I'm still very particular about where I do them. Or I'll microdose if I'm at a party, or like just a baby bigger dose than not a macro, but not a micro. somewhere in between at parties, because I'd rather not drink or get super stoned, because honestly at this point it makes me less social. Some light mushrooms, but weed are more trippy over different moments. For sure, weed's not a psychedelic, but they're psychedelic-esque vibes to it. I'm almost positive weed is not a psychedelic. Let's see. No. Sometimes. No. What's your favorite psychedelic? I don't know if I have a favorite one. I think they're different uses. I guess mushrooms are the most, they're some of the wildest times and also like the best moments I've had. And probably the psychedelic I've done the most. Definitely the psychedelic I've done the most. I've done way more mushrooms than anything. So mushrooms are my preferred psychedelic. Would you like mushrooms or LSD? I prefer mushrooms personally. What's it like for the first time? I did my first time as a teenager, and it's really different for everybody. So some people have a great time, some people freak out. There's definitely things that can help you kind of navigate, but you can't always know what's gonna happen. And to help you heal the void you feel inside? I think it can, for sure. It's not a guarantee, but yeah, I think if the right intention, the right use of them can be super beneficial for like self-exploration or like healing and just like doing work on yourself. You're also like changing your brain, so you're creating like neuroplasticity, right? And so if you integrate that trip after, you can kind of rewire your brain to a certain degree. How do I know if I should try psychedelic? Do I get a neurological exam first? I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I think I mean, I don't know the exact science, but I think there have been some people who were like, if schizophrenia was already like a thing, that it can bring that out. Or you just like do way too much. I don't really know. Yeah. Too much. I think that's definitely a thing. Yeah, I don't know. Talk to your doctor, maybe. Is ayahuasca potentially dangerous? I think so. I think, you know, if you have certain medical conditions, I think it can be, you know, kind of funky. I also think that if you're not guided and proper, or like I think it can be an emotionally damaging experience for some people, for sure. That's why I say it's not for everyone. And I think it really matters who your guide is and who you're doing that with, and what's the setting and what's the attention and where you are in your life. I think so, at least, you know, yeah. Okay, what's your craziest trip? I think one when I was a teenager where the world was ending, and probably my first ayahuasca journey where it felt like almost as if I was throwing up an entity that was fighting back and forth, coming out of me, and it came out. Some wild shit. Those have been like probably the most extreme. 2CB. I've done 2CB once, and it was an okay experience. It was fine until I was hanging out with someone that put on what's it called? It's the David Lynch movie, Lost Highway, which like on DMT, or not DMT, on 2CB. No, thank you. It's like scarring. I would do it again now. I'm like also older and wiser, and also like I party way less, so like I have like richer experiences, and they're way more intentional now. What advice would you give a first timer? Couple things. I think that you should, especially as your first time, if you can like be in an okay mental place is really important. Setting is really important. Kind of making sure, if you can, for the first time, having someone around you, maybe. But, you know, some people don't, and they're fine. But I kind of like that idea for a first time to not be alone. So, yeah, setting is really important. Mental state is really important. You know, who you're around. And, you know, it depends, like, what you want out of it. If you want just, like, a cool, trippy time, you know, go ahead. But even then, like, I think coming in with an intention, even though it's not necessarily always going to, like, go that route, can be really insightful, especially if you are there to, like, if you want to use it in a healing practice. But also, like, I think inviting a good time is also not a bad idea. Was big into salvia for a bit, learned a lot about my insecurities that way. Glad I addressed them. Cool. I never did them. Did salvia. Changed my life for the better, really clears up anxiety and depression. Not for everyone. That's how I am. Like, I sometimes think a lot of, like, now especially, like, there's kind of like this psychedelic renaissance. Everybody's like, it's the magic cure, it'll fix anything, it's for everybody. And I definitely don't think it's a magic cure. I definitely don't think it's for everyone. But I think it's a great tool. Once I was on acid and thought all of my friends wanted to kill me. That's amazing. Oh, we have a cat. Hi. Okay. Oh. You want to talk about psychedelics? Do you like psychedelic music? Yes, I actually collect psychedelic records. I like older stuff. and a lot of like psych stuff that's coming out of like Asia and like Turkey, like French psychedelia too. Yeah, big fan. Ever had a bad trip? For sure. You know, less so these days, but yeah, definitely. And it's just good to remember that it's going to be over if you can, but sometimes you think you lost your mind, so. What was your favorite part of your first solo trip? I think I've only tripped solo twice ever, and I didn't particularly love it. I usually trip with a friend, or I'm like in ceremony, or I'm with like a therapist. The only time I think I've done twice ever, so no, I haven't had a lot of that experience. I think I've done, that's not true. I've done like mini trips by myself, and that's really nice. And like I walk the dog and like take a bath, or, you know, just chill. Have you eaten mushrooms with a shaman in Mexico? No, but I've eaten mushrooms on my own, and I've eaten mushrooms with a therapist and friends. Someone said it's a tool, not a drug. Good luck in the universe that is you. Yeah, I think it's a drug and it's a tool. I think it's both. I think drugs can be tools. I've tried shrooms, but they never worked for me. Ecstasy, yeah, but terrible crash. What about you? I don't know if ecstasy is a psychedelic either. I don't think so, but I might be wrong. I do ecstasy with a therapist, actually. I do MDMA assisted therapy. It's great for people with like PTSD and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I do that. I've noticed that I get a terrible crash. You know, when I was young and partied, I got crashes. When I do it like in this way, I just don't get that severe depression. I think I also like take supplements and take 5-HTP and that kind of thing, but I just have a different relationship to it now. Less party time. Ever performed on psychedelics? I have not. I am not interested in doing that. Psychedelics is like, you know, for me, it goes into a really like spiritual and deep and personal place. And like, I don't really want to do that on camera or be engaged. Yeah. Or performing on it. I had one person once eat mushrooms while we were performing and didn't tell me. And I was not actually very stoked. I just, especially with someone that I like didn't actually know, that's kind of a boundary for me. I'm like, I don't want to have with people on drugs that I don't know, and especially drugs like psychedelics and at work. What's your favorite experience? What was your favorite experience? I had one where the trees and leaves start splitting like 3D. I've had so many. I think for me, one of my favorite things is being able to feel connected to everything else. I think I have a fairly hard time connecting to the rest of the world and other people, and it's something I kind of like struggle with. And so like the kind of that feeling of everything feeling less like a chaotic mess, like it's more of a collected chaos that's kind of intertwined, and you kind of feel like you got like let on life's joke, and all of a sudden everything that you're freaking out about or stressed out about becomes really funny. And it's nice to laugh at the absurdity and embracing it instead of like, I think, focusing on suffering. I also, you know, have watched the sunset and cried and thought it was the most beautiful thing, and have had magical and really funny and really deep moments. But my favorite thing, I think, is like feeling that connection and like meaning and meaninglessness all at the same time. It's like everything all at once, right? And taking in everything all at once. It's like kind of a beautiful, like spiritual experience for me, I guess. Macrodose or microdose, which is better? Different things. You know, microdose is not like tripping. It's kind of using it in a like almost as a form of antidepressant. Macrodose is tripping. It's kind of going in. It's doing more like mental work too. You're deep diving into it. One is for like a daily or, you know, a couple times a week use. And one is like, I don't think you really want to macrodose every other day. But yeah, microdosing, what is your experience with it and how would you suggest it? I have done a little bit of microdosing. I'm not consistent with it, so I don't do a whole bunch, but what I tend to do is take it microdose every 3 days with mushrooms, so then you don't build a huge tolerance either. I definitely think microdosing I think mushrooms should not be illegal, and they aren't in some places, so microdose shrooms and put on a Disney movie, best experience. I used to like to watch Fantasia on mushrooms. That was the thing. Took some mushrooms and Frosty the Snowman across the street started moving. Yep. See people saying microdosing saved their lives. Oh, and I think if you're new, I think starting off taking little bits is the way to go. Don't go crazy. Worst experience you've had tripping? For me, I think definitely when I was a kid and thinking the world was ending. It's a rough night. Maybe one day I'll tell that story. Have you done any ketamine therapy treatments? How do you feel about therapy through psychedelics? I have never done the ketamine therapy. I'm personally not interested. I think it's, I've met a lot of people where it's been really helpful. For me, it feels more like an kind of use, and people might disagree with me, and I'm super open to being like wrong or just them having had a different experience. I view it as more like it's an antidepressant rather than like kind of a medicine journey. But whatever, I don't know, and maybe people have different experiences with it. In my younger days of just like experimenting, I definitely did it, but I personally do not really like it. I don't connect with it. I don't really like dissociating. I can do that on my own. And I think I get this kind of like dark feeling from it that I don't feel with other stuff. So it's just not mine. It's not my medicine. But other people, it is. Took 2 squares for the first time a week ago and flipped my fucking head. I'm too old. It was nice, but too intense. That's real. I'm only doing like heroic doses when I'm doing medicine journeys. Like that is the only time I take a large amount of psychedelics. I do not casually with friends. I am always like, it's a baby dose. I'm not taking big stuff. So like I'll take up to like 6 grams of mushrooms when I'm like going into medicine. But if I'm not, I'm taking like 1 to 2. Like I'm just not interested in going super hard. You ever done a heroic dose of anything? That is the only time I take a large amount of psychedelics. Or incredible experience, literally saw a dragon. Would you trip with fans? Purist like form.